What is going on, everybody? How you doing? Welcome to another episode of Talking Buffalo, your weekday daily driver for Buffalo sports talk and more. My name is Patrick Moran. Thank you so much to everybody out there, as always, for listening to the show, for watching, however you consume Talking Buffalo. I very, very, very much appreciate you all. If you're not yet subscribed, please go ahead and do that. Whether you're on YouTube, hit that subscribe button, like the video. If you listen to the show like I do, a lot of other people do, just go to Spotify, Apple, wherever you listen to podcasts and just click that follow button. It really helps us continue to grow this show. And speaking of this show, it is presented today by the law offices of William Mattar. Hurt in a car, call William Mattar, 444-4444. Call William Mattar today to get the compensation that you deserve. All right, folks, this is our Tuesday podcast. The Bills played on Sunday. They won, of course, beating the Pittsburgh Steelers 26-7. As we usually do on this show, I spend the next day following the game, watching the All-22 film for as long as I possibly can, looking for as many things as I could think of. I spent some time on Next Gen Stats, PFF. I kind of go through all the stats, all the metrics, the film, and have what I like to call more measured takeaways from this game 2 days after they play, as opposed to when Joe from Queens and I do a live reaction show immediately or soon after a game. You're kind of in the moment there. Emotions tend to run a little bit high. Some things you didn't see on tape, you got to go back and you watch sometimes. You might have a thought, you go back, you watch the film, and bam, you know what, I was wrong. And that happens a lot too, by the way. I was wrong. I thought this, but that wasn't the case at all. Or sometimes you might think a player, played crappy, and you're like, well, I was wrong. This guy, he played great, or he played bad, whatever. And sometimes you're right. Sometimes what you suspect is confirmed when you go back and watch the tape. So that's what I like to do. Matt Moran from SB Nation is going to join me tomorrow. We're going to go through our positional analysis from this game and the team just in general going forward. Matt has been on all season long. We've been doing that on Wednesdays. It's been a lot of fun and really informative. So that'll be tomorrow. As for today, like I said, you know what? Watching the All-22 from this game, and I probably spent a good 3.5 to 4 hours watching this game. It was weird. Like, depending on what you enjoy watching, depending on what you like to look for, this was either an awesome tape for the Buffalo Bills or just the game in general, or it was an incredibly boring snooze fest of a tape. Like, if you like to watch teams sling the ball around, if you're looking for receivers, are they open? Are they not open? Why did this big play not connect? Just, a wild game of football. This one for you, man. This was not for you at all. This whole entire football game, folks, almost every big play in this game came from the defensive side of the football. Like, the two biggest plays, without question, for the Bills in this football game was both defensive plays. The strip sack fumble by Joey Bosa that Christian Benford scooped up, scored a touchdown on the very first play of the third quarter. That's the biggest play of the game. I argued on the show yesterday that it was one of the top 3 plays of the season for the Buffalo Bills. Joe from Queens disagreed. I really don't care that he disagrees because I stand by that 100%. This was a top 3 play for the season, given the circumstance. They were losing when that play happened. But anyway, you had that, and then you had the Christian Benford interception thanks to an airmailed ball from Mason Rudolph. Conversely, on the other side, Pittsburgh really didn't do much on offense. Josh Allen forced a throw into Gabe Davis. Maybe it's Gabe Davis's fault. Can't really tell. You would have to be in that room to know if Gabe Davis, ran or didn't break off the route in time or whatever. But that was a big play for Pittsburgh. And then the James Cook fumble, which Pittsburgh ultimately converted into a touchdown. But all the big plays in this game, all the excitement, I should say, the exciting plays pretty much came on defense, not so much offense or special teams. If you like slinging the ball around. There was only one 30-yard offensive play in this entire football game from either team. Either team. James Cook ripped off a 31-yard run. That was the biggest play by either offense for this entire football game. It was boring, if not painful, to watch the passing games. But hey, it doesn't really matter, right? Because here's the bottom line, folks, before we get into specific takeaways, and I got plenty. But here's the bottom line. The Buffalo Bills really, really needed this football game, folks. The Bills, if they would have lost, I believe the playoff percentages would have been around 55, 60%, something like that, but it didn't feel that way. It felt like they had to go win this game. Even though they were down 4 starters on the offense, Pittsburgh was down a couple guys too. They were down 2 pretty key starters. The Bills couldn't lose a 4th road game this season as a road favorite. They already lost to Atlanta, to Miami, to Houston when they were favored on the road. You could not have a 4th road loss during the regular season. They lose this game against Pittsburgh, and they're officially in a dogfight for the playoffs. Now, the playoffs still aren't a birthright. It's not over. I still think you got to get to 10 wins. You got 8. We could give the Jets, we'll go ahead and give that finale to the Bills. Still got to find another win. Possibly even 2, but probably only 1. Anyway, my whole point is this. They needed this game. Between the standings and just the anxiety, the vibes, I feel like I heard a lot of respected Bills media people who were in Houston the week before talking about how that was just a team that looked so defeated and demoralized coming off the field in Houston. They were physically spent. They were mentally and emotionally spent in that game. They really needed to bounce back. So beyond whether they're the 7th seed, the 4th seed, the 2nd seed, none of that shit. Just having to go out and win a football game for the sake of their own well-being, not just physically, but mentally. I thought this was an incredibly important game for the Buffalo Bills. So props to them for that. And I'll tell you what, the fans too. No, I'm not just going to limit it to the fans. Some media, plenty of content creators, but primarily fans. This is a reprieve from anxiety with the team that has created a lot of anxiety for Bills fans this season, even if it's just for a few days. By the middle of this week, we're going to be locked in on a very tough Cincinnati Bengals team coming to town that may just be 4-8 on the season, but they are 8-0 the last 8 times Joey Burrow has started for them at quarterback. So another big game coming up here. They're all big at this point in the season. When you're fighting for at least an outside chance for the division still, but trying to secure a wild card spot, these games all mean plenty. But anyway, like I said, just a little bit of relief, a little bit of a mental relief. It's been tough. The Bills have not played consistently good football now since the first month of the season. It's been up. It's been down. You think they get on track. They looked really shitty going into the bye. 2 straight losses, and then they come back from the bye. They go to Carolina. They smack them. They beat the Chiefs at home. You think everything's great. Here we go. We're back. Then you go into Miami and you play like shit and you lose. Then you come back home against a tough Tampa team. Your offense is clicking. You're throwing the ball all over the place. 6 touchdowns. Josh Allen, AFC Offensive Player of the Week yet again. Things are great. And then you go into Houston last week and you get your brains physically battered in by that Houston defense. And it's terrible. So here we go again. But this time, like I said, at this part of the week anyway, it's okay. It's okay to feel good. There's things to criticize from this game. There's things to nitpick. And I will, at least a little bit. But the big point, the big message here, folks, is that the Bills won this game, and they are, at the end of the day, they're 8-4. So let's just kind of keep that in perspective. In terms of individual takes regarding this game, the big one, the main one that I have, I talked about it a little bit on the show with Joe from Queens yesterday, is I think this game may have finally been the game to teach me a lesson when it comes to my social media, my inability to kind of just let things play out before I chime in. I am the kind of guy, if you follow me on Twitter, by the way, at Patrick Moran TB, I am constantly, it's a tweet storm during the games. And I tweet something out about how I feel in the second, in that moment. And quite often the game will flip around. I mean, that's the way it is, and just not in football, but in sports. And you can end up looking really, really foolish afterwards. Where I'm getting at here is I just absolutely lambasted probably the first through maybe midway through the third quarter, just completely was roasting Joe Brady, tearing up into him. I said that the job he was doing was disgraceful. I bitched about the Bills. Joe Brady treats Josh Allen like he's Marcus Mariota in this offense. I mentioned at one point that whether the Bills win or lose this game, if Sean McDermott doesn't fire Joe Brady when this season is over, I would consider that an embarrassment. I think Joe Brady was an embarrassment as offensive coordinator. These are all things I was tweeting relatively early in the game, in the moment, because I was heated. And I hope that this may have been the wake-up call and the lesson. Now, I know, a lot of people kind of like when I do shit like that because that's their ammunition to make fun of me. I get that. Trust me, I do. I get that. And I'm not the only one, by the way. I'm just owning it. I'm admitting it. There's lots of people out there, lots of sports media people, lots of content creators that are out there tweeting silly-ass shit during the game in the heat of the moment, just like I do. But anyway, my whole point was this. At the end of the day, if you want to charge Joe Brady with offensive coordinating felonies, this was not the game to make your case. This was not the game to make your case at all. The Bills ran for 249 yards rushing, the most by anyone in a stadium in Pittsburgh in literally 50 years. That to me is wild. And maybe the reason why in the moment I was so heated was because, like some of you anyway, I knew the metrics going in. The Pittsburgh Steelers were kind of like mid in defending the run. The Pittsburgh Steelers were literally dead last in the NFL in pass defense. Dead last. So you're watching the Bills play high school bully ball against a defense that was dead last in the NFL. So that's why you get mad in the moment. But again, thinking about it, with a clear mind, with an objective, unbiased mind, it was brilliant. It was brilliant. Running for 249 yards, 50 years since anyone came into Pittsburgh and did that, which, by the way, 50 years ago, it was the O.J. Simpson-led Buffalo Bills. And, kind of just understanding the whole situation of the game. And by the way, oh my Lord, the time-consuming, long, methodical, we use that word a lot, methodical. These were time-consuming, methodical drives the Bills put out in the second half. 3 drives the Bills had in the second half. That's it. 3 drives. The first one, 8 plays, 56 yards, 4 minutes and 27 seconds of clock used. The only reason why they only used 4.5 minutes is because they only had to go 56 yards. That was the offensive drive after the Christian Benford interception that would put the Bills up by 2 scores. Then you have a 15-play, 83-yard drive, 8 minutes, 14 seconds, literally more than a half a quarter of holding the football. 15 plays, 83 yards. It culminates in the Josh Allen bulldozer touchdown run, the final nail in the Pittsburgh Steelers. Again, 15 plays, 83 yards, 8 minutes, 14 seconds, which wasn't even the most impressive drive because after a 4th down stop, the Bills stopped Pittsburgh on 4th and about a yard or so. Greg Rousseau, great run stuff. The Bills then proceeded to take the ball with over 10 minutes left in the game. 14 plays, 72 yards. They held the ball for over 9 minutes. 9 minutes and 4 seconds, which culminated in the field goal to go up 3 scores. Put the game away, for sure. Put it on nice. And by the way, they also had a 16-play, 60-yard, 7-minute, and 18-second drive in the second quarter that culminated into a field goal. So other than the relatively semi-short field, because they got the ball almost near midfield on the Bedford pick, those other drives, every single one of them, they held the ball for more than 7 minutes. 3 different times. It's just crazy to me. And the whole, I think I saw something where the same player, the same variation of that run that the Bills kept doing on Pittsburgh was run 29 times in this game. And it's like, that's Little League or high school style offense. But you know what? It worked. It worked in this game. It worked in this football game. The Bills just said, you know what? You can't stop this, so we're not going to stop doing this. And Sean McDermott, a few times throughout the year, has gotten really pissed off at Joe Brady for getting what he has said is too cute. The Bills really didn't do that. They didn't have stupid runs, end arounds, and a couple bubble screens that were really annoying. But besides that, you know what I mean? They just kept doing what was working. And the whole, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. That was the Buffalo Bills in a nutshell against Pittsburgh. And when you really think about it, it's brilliant because there's no Deion Dawkins, there's no Spencer Brown. I never in a million years, by the way, I'm going to be honest with you, I picked the Steelers to win this game. I owned that on the show yesterday. 3 times this year I picked against the Bills. The Bills are 3-0 when I pick against them, by the way. Baltimore, Kansas City, and Pittsburgh. My thought process was no offensive tackles. They're both out, which is the first time in 16 years the Bills had to play a game with both their starting offensive tackles out. They're both out. It was pretty obvious to me that Dalton Kincaid wasn't going to play. I'm like, what are they going to do on offense? They barely survived against Houston. In fact, I took some heat earlier in the week because I suggested if Josh Allen starts taking a beating like he did in Houston, get him out of the game. Save him for the last 5 weeks. I need Josh Allen healthy, and I thought he might go out of this game in a body bag with T.J. Watt and Alex Highsmith and Hayward and some of these other great pass rushers that Pittsburgh has. But just brilliant game planning. They corrected their mistakes, put it that way. The Houston game, just a disgusting, deplorable, Bush League game plan by Joe Brady, cocky, arrogant, selfish, to think that he could put 5 offensive linemen out there and successfully block the front 4 of Houston, who had Will Anderson and Denell Hunter on those edge. They just absolutely destroyed the Buffalo Bills. Tim Settle as well destroyed them. He didn't make that same mistake this time around. It was constantly Jackson Hawes, who, by the way, Jackson Hawes, incredible in this game. If you're a fan of you love to see good blocking, holy shit, put in this tape, dude. You are going to be impressed. Jackson Hawes, I don't know tight ends and how well they block for 31 other teams. I'm not going to try to pretend I know the whole league. But I'll say this. If that rookie is not already the best blocking tight end in the NFL, I would love to know who is. I would love to know, and I'm sure there may be a few people, I just don't know. So you tell me, who is a better blocking tight end right now than the 5th-round rookie, Jackson Hawes? Holy shit, was he impressive, man. Whether it was helping seal T.J. Watt on the edge, whether it was going to get a linebacker on a design run or a safety, he is something else. What a steal Jackson Hawes is looking like, folks, in the 5th round. But anyway, just the design. They were not going to leave Alec Anderson and Ryan Vandermark in a bad spot, especially in pass protection. They did not fall for the same mistakes that they did against Houston. I could go on and spend a full hour just talking about the Joe Brady game plan for this game. Will I want to see this next week against the Bengals? Hell no. Hell no. But this week, this opponent, that situation, 100% it worked. So if you're blasting Joe Brady, if you're calling for his head, you want his job, and you're presenting your evidence on why you want that, this is just not the game, folks, to build your case. It's just not. All right, quick break. Come right back, and we'll get into plenty other stuff. All right, we are back here. Buffalo Bills, Pittsburgh Steelers, biggest takeaways. Show presented, of course, by William Mattar. Heard in a car, call William Mattar, 444-4444. This defense looks significantly better, and I'm not sure it's a coincidence that Shaq Thompson is starting at middle linebacker and Terrell Bernard is out. Joe DiBiase from WGR. By the way, fun fact, I don't know if you guys know this or not. Joe DiBiase is actually my cousin. We're related. My cousin. So maybe being a genius, a sports genius, just runs in our family. But anyway, he put something out, and I'm reading what he says. Bills run defense in Terrell Bernard starts versus Shaq Thompson starts. The Atlanta game was a split because Bernard started but got hurt, and then Shaq Thompson came in. Terrell Bernard, 267 carries when he's on the field by the opponent this year, 1,479 rushing yards, 5.5 yards average per carry. Shaq Thompson, now albeit, of course, this is a significantly smaller sample size, maybe 25%, but still, 59 carries, 221 yards, 3.7 yards per carry. So when Terrell Bernard is out there at middle linebacker, the Bills are giving up 1.8 yards more per carry than when Shaq Thompson is out there. And his presence is felt out there. You could see it. You could just see it. You could feel it. You're hearing stories about him stepping up and being a leader. He's been around for a long time. He's a veteran. He's very well respected. His issue has been injuries. Pretty much like everybody else on the Buffalo Bills, ain't it? Just being able to stay healthy the last few years. A couple major injuries. He's been banged up. He's had a hamstring a couple times this year. But he's a difference maker on the field. And I think it's getting to a point now where it should be, I'm not saying it's going to be, it should be an easy decision for Sean McDermott that when Terrell Bernard gets back, and who knows, maybe it's this week, but whenever it is, you can't go away from Shaq Thompson at this point. I think this season, when Shaq Thompson has played, I think he has been the best linebacker on this team, and I don't think it's close either. And I get it with Terrell Bernard. He's your captain. Literally, you got two captains on this team, and he's one of them. And your general manager just gave him a nice, chunky extension this offseason. And it's a really bad look for your general manager, to a lesser extent, your coaching staff, to have a guy who gets a big, chunky extension healthy and standing on the sidelines while your journeyman guy who you signed late in the offseason process is out there potentially taking the critical snaps and being a linebacker down the stretch and maybe into the playoffs. That is a tough pill to swallow. I don't think it's a comfortable decision. I don't think it's a comfortable conversation that Sean McDermott might have to have with these guys, but I think it's an easy one in terms of who's the better linebacker right now. And in fairness to Terrell Bernard, I'll say this. He's fighting through some injuries, on the ankle especially. There's no question about that. It has significantly slowed him down, and I think that's pretty obvious. And, we would just completely blast Taylor Rapp to the end of the earth through the first 5-6 weeks of the season or so. Come to find out, he's been playing with an injured knee that he's had all the way since training camp. I guarantee you, Terrell Bernard has not had one game this season where his ankle and probably other body parts have been 100%. Not one. Not one. But you know what? You're trying to win games now. It's not about feelings. It's about putting the best 11 players out there. And I just don't see a scenario where Shaq Thompson is not one of the best two linebackers on this football team. So I don't know how they do it. My gut tells me, my guess is if Bernard could get back, they probably play Shaq Thompson with Bernard, and maybe Milano's the guy who gets his reps dialed back, which Milano's been playing relatively decent, especially the last couple of games. But anyway, it's going to be a tough decision. Now, the thing with Shaq Thompson is, if Bernard still misses a couple more weeks or whatever, you go away from him and you decide Shaq Thompson's going to be your guy, can you rely on him to stay healthy? That's the issue with Shaq Thompson. But Anyway, it was a great game for him. It really was. And it was also a great game for Christian Benford. Christian Benford stepped up. He was great. He was great. This is the guy, folks, that the Bills extended this offseason, that they gave $19 million to. This is a guy that $19 million per year felt like a bargain to me. And it's starting to look like that on the field as well. I think he had a very, very slow start to the season. I don't know if it was something physically ailing him. I know he had a groin at one point. Maybe just, I don't know, maybe being overwhelmed, the big contract, maybe that had a little bit of effect on him. Who knows? But what I can tell you is from the last 5-6 weeks or so, he's really started to settle back into one of the game's great corners that we got accustomed to seeing. He shadowed DK Metcalf the entire game. Metcalf had 3 catches for 32 yards. That's it. He was all over the place. He's been a really good run defender. He's trusted on run blitzes. In fact, right place, right time, right? Bosa knocks the ball out. Christian Benford, who's there on a run blitz, picks it up, or a pass blitz, I'm sorry, picks the ball up, touchdown, also an interception, and a tackle for a loss. He has just been, in this game, he was phenomenal, and he's just been really good. And that's important because, I mean, we're getting into a stretch right now where this Sunday, he's probably going to be shadowing Jamar Chase. The week after that, he may be shadowing Stephon Diggs. So the best version of Christian Benford is definitely coming out at the right time. So those were 2 guys, Shaq Thompson and Benford, that they were really impressive watching the game in real time live. And then when you go back the next day and watch the film, they stood out to me. They were great. And another thing I think the Bills did very well, which, a lot of this is on the players, but the coaches, including Sean McDermott, deserve some praise for this, is I thought the Bills did a really good job of taking the Pittsburgh Steelers stars and kind of more or less just taking them out of the game. Both sides of the football. One of the things going into this game, and I talked about it on the previous show on Friday, that I was kind of scared shitless about was I kind of had a feeling that Christian Benford could do the job on DK Metcalf, and they weren't going to let him get over the top, and Aaron Rodgers doesn't throw the ball deep. We all know that. In fact, he had the shortest coming into this game, and I'm sure it's going to stay that way too, but shortest air yards per completion of any quarterback in the entire NFL. So I wasn't really worried. And plus, the receivers for the Steelers after DK Metcalf are kind of scrubs. So I wasn't worried about guys getting deep and it being that kind of day. What I was very, very scared of was those tight ends killing the Bills in the passing game. The big Darnell Washington did have a little success. But him aside, Pat Freiermuth, I was worried sick about him. Jonnu Smith, I was a little bit terrified of him. I thought these guys, Milano and Thompson and Teron Johnson, who really, they're not great in coverage. Jordan Poyer, that these guys were going to throw to the tight ends a lot, and hurt the Bills' defense. That, folks, did not happen. Bills took them out of the game. Or maybe the Steelers, with stupid play calling and decisions, they took themselves out of the game. But Pat Freiermuth and Jonnu Smith, 1 catch, 6 yards on 2 targets combined. It's just incredible to me. What a great job by the Bills to not let the tight end be a big factor in this game. I mentioned DK Metcalf. Like I said, 3 catches, 32 yards on 5 targets. That's an elite number 1 receiver, or at least he's paid like an elite number 1 receiver. Take that all day. So the Bills really took those stars out on the offensive side of the ball. And then the defense, I mean, come on, man. TJ Watt, what was scarier this week coming into this game? Maybe not even just this game, but the entire league. If you looked at the matchup for every single team, every game around the league, the thought of TJ Watt lined up against Alec Anderson or Ryan Vandermark, take your pick, doesn't really matter, but especially Alec Anderson, I guess. Scary, especially in light of what Hunter and especially Will Anderson Jr. did to the Bills starting tackles the week before. Holy shit, was that scary. Well, guess what? TJ Watt did nothing this game. Nothing. 1 pressure, that's it. 1 pressure for TJ Watt. The Bills made them irrelevant. Now, Alec Anderson has some great reps against him, but again, going back to coaching, chipping with Dawson Knox, chipping with Jackson Hawes, keeping Shavers in the block, using a running back to block him. He was not going to get one-on-one battles with Alec Anderson the way say Will Anderson did with Spencer Brown, an injured Spencer Brown or Deion Dawkins. It wasn't happening. And TJ Watt didn't do shit in this game. One pressure. Alex Highsmith, great pass rusher. Two pressures. That's it. Their two ends, who I was scared to death of, did nothing. And then Jalen Ramsey and Joey Porter Jr., two guys who are playmakers in the secondary, zero impact. Zero impact at all. So big for the Bills to be able to take the Steelers stars out of this game. And I also want to give a tip of the cap to some of the old guard on the Bills defense. You know, much maligned, maybe not much maligned, but certainly maligned to an extent. But three guys who are the old guard, like I said, on this defense, all had pretty good games. Trey White, I'll start there. I thought he was great. Now, did he make a couple business decisions with not wanting to tackle Darnell Washington in the open field? Yeah, man, he's not the most physical corner when it comes to tackling. He never was, and he ain't going to be. He's not going to be. But 0 catches he allowed, 2 targets, and he had a really nice pass breakup. In fact, it was the Pittsburgh first drive of the game. 3rd down, beautiful pass breakup in the middle of the field. He was feeling it. And so was Sean McDermott, because that whole platoon between Trey and Max Harrison, where they kind of split reps, it was much more lopsided in the favor of Trey White. And I agree with it in this game, man. Go with the veteran in this type of game. And until he shows you that he can make plays, ride him. Ride him. I thought Trey White was really good. Jordan Poyer, he played 38 of the 40 reps that all the starters were in for. 38 out of 40. And I thought he was solid. Not tested much. I feel like I'm saying that every week, though, ain't it? Well, like, why are teams not going after Jordan Poyer? Why are they not trying to expose him? Why is he not getting tested week after week after week after week? Well, I don't know. Maybe offensive coordinators are seeing something that they don't want to test him. I don't know. But he's not giving up anything. He's been pretty sure tackling. He's missed a couple tackles, but all in all, he's been rock solid. Forget about the part that he's he's mentoring Cole Bishop. We all know that by now. We all know Cole Bishop. He's taking a big step, and Jordan Poyer deserves credit for that. But forget about the mentorship part, just the football, being on the field part. Jordan Poyer's been fine. He's been fine. And I mentioned Matt Milano earlier. Matt Milano is not, he's not playing at an all-pro level. He's not wowing you per se, but he's been solid. He had a nice rep on a pass, I believe it was to Jalen Moran out of the backfield, hunted him down, made a nice hit on the sideline, nice physical hit. Looked in place from what I saw on film. He wasn't shooting the wrong gaps. He wasn't over-pursuing. I thought he was really solid. So, you really love to see that. So, again, 3 old guys, man. Old fogies. Trey, Poe, Milano. I can't believe I'm including Milano in that group, but I am. I thought they all played well. All right, one more real quick break. Come back on the other side. Going to finish up with a couple more thoughts for you. Talking Buffalo back here, one more segment. I got to tell you, folks, watching this game, and I'm not a Steelers fan, but if I were, I'm furious today if I'm a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. Like, if the roles were reversed and this was talking Pittsburgh, I probably would not be keeping my composure. I think I'd be losing my shit at this football team. The way they played, seemingly the way they prepared. This is supposed to be a tough, gritty, blue-collar type football team, and they looked anything but. It almost felt to me like the Bills were playing a West Coast kind of team that wanted nothing to do with being cold. I don't know what it was, but they got out physical. They got out hustled. And the coaching, absolutely cowardly coaching from the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I'll give you a couple examples here specifically, man. There was 4th and 1. Now, the Bills are up 16-7. There's 7:22 left in the third quarter. You're down 2 scores. And you got 4th and 1 from your own 34-yard line. Worst rush defense in the NFL, mind you, the Buffalo Bills here. You punt. You punt. Unbelievable. Worst against the worst rush defense. It's 4th and 1. You're down 2 scores, and you punt. Like, where's your guts? Where's your guts? That, to me, was cowardly. And, Sean McDermott ain't doing that. You say what you want about Sean. 9 times out of 10, he's going for that, as he should. Well, Tomlin decided to punt. Just awful. And then what about, they take a stop. They go for it on 4th and 2. They run. Oh, you know what? Here's the other thing, too, about that 4th and 1 play. It's not even so much the 4th and 1 play. So they're down 2 scores. It's 3rd and 9. And they run the football. They run the football. They get like 7.5 yards to set up about 4th and about a yard to a yard and a half. They run the ball on 3rd and 9. If you're running the ball on 3rd and 9 and you get close, to me, that's like, all right, well, it's 4 down territory. We're going to get close. We're going to go for it. Well, they got a great result from the run. They picked up 7.5 yards, and they punted anyway. God, that was just awful, man. It was brutal. But anyway, later in the game, early in the 4th quarter, it's 4th and 2. They're down 16. They absolutely have to go for it. They run the ball again. The Bills defense stops them. Greg Rizzo darts in. He makes a great play. Deion Walker kind of clogged the lane up. So the Bills get the ball back, and they go on a 9-minute drive. The Bills got the ball back with 10 minutes and 11 seconds left. They kept the ball until there was 1 minute and 7 seconds left on the play in the game, the 4th quarter. They just chewed away the entire 4th quarter, chewed it away. They were up 16. Everyone in the stadium knows the Bills are just going to run the hell out of the football, and they did. They did. 10-11 left when you get the ball. 1:07 left when Prater kicks the chip shot field goal. And here's the thing. They didn't call timeouts. Like, they weren't even trying to stop the clock. Like, Mike Tomlin surrendered. There were like 3 or 4 legitimate Mike Tomlin surrender moments of this game. And that was pretty much a surrender drive. Like, once the Bills got that second first down on that drive, it was a wrap. It was over. The only timeout that was taken by Pittsburgh was was after a penalty, and TJ Watt got how he hobbled off. He limped off the field. They had to use one there. That's it. That's it. They didn't try to stop the clock to get the ball back to, maybe the Bills have to throw or something or force a punt, anything. They just didn't. And I constantly hear these Mike Tomlin and Sean McDermott comparisons. They were running wild. They always have, and they especially were running wild because they're playing each other on Sunday. I think that's a bullshit comparison. Like, maybe in terms of, maybe tough-minded, defensive-first head coaches who, have made a lot of mistakes in big moments and they're not the best game managers. You could sell me on that. But there is one big fundamental difference that, based on what I saw Sunday between Mike Tomlin and Sean McDermott. The Bills could have been getting their brains bashed in Pittsburgh or wherever it was. I don't care where it was. They ain't quitting. They're not quitting. I promise you, if Pittsburgh was up 16 and there was 10 minutes left in the game and the Bills have to play defense and make a stop, and even if Pittsburgh gets a couple first downs, I promise you, the first time the Bills stop Jalen Warren for a 2-yard run and it's 2nd and 8 and there's 5.5, 6 minutes left, I promise you Sean McDermott is starting to use his timeouts. He's not quitting in this game. He's not going to do it. He's not going to quit. That's not in the Bills' DNA. You could bitch about a lot of stuff with Sean and you'll be right about a lot of things, but the one thing you cannot say is that Sean McDermott teams give up on games. They just don't. They get outplayed. They play like shit. They're mistake prone and they can have embarrassing weeks, but the one thing they will not do is look like they don't want to be out there. That never, ever happens. And that's what it looked like with the Pittsburgh Steelers. A couple other little nuggets with this game that I got in my notes. I don't want to sound like a hater because I know he scored a touchdown. He's missed the last 2 games, benched the last 2 games, healthy and active. Keon scored a touchdown. That's great. Good, maybe that helps his mindset, but none special. None special from Keon Coleman in this game. And when you go back and you watch the film of his touchdown, he really didn't do anything at all. So he lines up on the right side and he just runs a straight crossing route. And the reason why he's open is because there's a miscommunication between Asante Samuel Jr., who literally just got elevated from the practice squad. This was his first game with the Steelers. Him and the safety, the name's escaping my mind at the moment. Oh, it was Duger, I think. 29, Duger. So it's Duger and Samuel. Keon Coleman just runs a crossing route off the line. No move, no hitch, no nothing. Just runs a straight crossing route. And everyone else is in man, but they don't run with them until it's too late anyway, before they realize that. And the play was not designed for Keon Coleman. The play was designed, it was going to be a rub for Dawson Knox. This was the 4th down play. Dawson Knox was open. The problem was Pittsburgh blitzed, and the corner, number 26, Eccles, was there. And Josh didn't have a chance to throw it to Dawson Knox. Josh Allen did what only Josh Allen and maybe one or two other quarterbacks in the NFL could do, and he evaded Nichols, and then on a dime stops and hits a open Keon Coleman for a touchdown. Again, I'm not trying to, throw hate or shade at Keon Coleman. Good on him to run the route. Good on him to haul the ball in and make the catch and have that moment where, hey, maybe you could build off that. And I hope he does build off that, okay? I'm just saying, let's not have overkill right now. Oh, Keon's back. He's so back, baby, because he scored a touchdown. No. Well, he did, but it was just an easy touchdown, and he didn't cook anybody in the secondary. He didn't run a great route. He didn't make a great catch. He just ran a crossing route, and it was more of a miscommunication from the Steelers secondary than anything else. Besides that, he had a short catch, and he also had a drop on a slant too. So, I don't know, 2 catches for 9 yards and a touchdown. I don't know. I wonder, because Josh Palmer, as of Monday, Sean McDermott said he's improving. He was limited at practice the last few days last week. Ultimately, he didn't play. But if Josh Palmer's back this week, I don't think the Bills use 6 receivers again. I don't think you're going to see that again because it's tough to have 6 wide receivers active when only one of them, which is Shavers, plays special teams. You can't have 5 wide receivers on your team active that don't play any special teams. So if Josh Palmer's back this week, I wonder if it's Keon Coleman or James Cook. James Cooks. Not James Cook. It ain't going to be James Cook. Duh. Brandon Cooks, who goes out of the lineup. Brandon Cooks had a catch for 13 yards early in the game. Besides that, it's Elijah Moore. It's Curtis Samuel. It just feels like it's going to be more of the same. So we'll see what happens at the receiver position. But it's worth noting Keon played. He did score. Man, this is where film matters. You look at a box score. Tyrell Shavers, no targets, no catches. Well, he sucked, right? Tyrell Shavers was awesome in this game. Great job blocking. No targets. Who cares? Still a good game. James Cook had 3 carries this game that went for 10-plus yards. All 3 carries, Tyrell Shavers was on the field, lined up on the right side. And I'm not going to say he had a pancake block, but he got a piece of his receiver. He did his 111 to help spring a James Cook play. And he did that on all 3 of James Cook's runs of 10 or more yards. Tyrell Shavers ain't going nowhere. And he had a really good game, despite the fact he didn't have a catch. In terms of the wide receiver reps, he played the most, too. 61% of the snaps. Gabe Davis, 58%. Shakir, 49%. Keon, 45%. Brandon Cooks, 23%. Again, we're just one game in, but Brandon Cooks, 23%, 1 target, 1 catch, 13 yards. It feels a lot more like the Curtis Samuel and Elijah Moore. Another thing on the other side of the ball, I just had in my notes, just want to touch on briefly here. TJ Sanders. I think he's had a really empty rookie season. Started out really slow. Got injured, hurt the knee, went on IR, came back. It's been ever since. I'll tell you what, this was the first game where I watched him and I was noticing him. A couple really good reps, promising reps from TJ Sanders. There was one where he lined up at right. He was the right defensive end on a pass rush. And I can't remember. Somebody blitzed, but the tackle went out and got him, or the tight end chipped him or something. No, I'm sorry. He hit Darnell Washington off the line, held him up, and then he started his pass rush. And it was Pete, the right tackle. And Sanders just straight up bulldozed him and ran him over. And it was a nice pressure. He also helped flush Aaron Rodgers out of the pocket on an incomplete pass So again, it's nothing crazy, but we've been waiting for something from TJ Sanders, and it sucks. It's hard on him, and it's hard on Daquan Jones and these defensive tackles that are being forced to play edge snaps because of the injuries. But my point is, this was the first time all season where I really was starting to feel TJ Sanders out there. And then the last thing I had in my notes, Matt Prater, missed another extra point, back-to-back games. It's a little worrisome to me, but all in all, I still feel relatively good. And whether I do or whether I don't, we've talked about the last couple weeks. Are we going to see Tyler Bass? Well, the answer is no. He had surgery last week. Sean McDermott said all but ruled him out for the rest of the season. So when the Bills need a kick, it's going to be Matt Prater who's doing it. In terms of big picture stuff here, we're on our way out in just a minute. I think the Bills, and I'm just being honest, I think the Bills are great front runners with that offense, especially. But there's plenty of worries. And what do I mean by they're great front runners? Well, they can beat you in different ways. They can ground and pound the football like they just did this week against Pittsburgh. They can successfully air it out like they did against Tampa Bay. That's their formula for success. It's early leads or in these close games where they could dictate the terms of what they do on offense. Like, if they get out in front of you, they'll step on your head. You know what I mean? They have the ability to do that. Whether it's smashing the ball down your throat, whether it's Josh slinging it around, especially with Dalton Kincaid and Palmer are out there, Josh with his legs, they could just open up the offense. They can do a lot of things when it's on their terms and they dictate the game. They're so good. But, and this is the difference between, I think, the Bills and some of the other good teams in the league, is when things go bad, couple turnovers, some mistakes, the defense is playing like shit, whatever it may be, and they fall behind, and they have to become a passing team. It's not about balance anymore. Now you got to start throwing the football when it comes down to that. Or if a team, and we've seen this a few times this season, where in the second half of games especially, teams will just completely sell out against the Buffalo Bills to stop the run. They will put 8 guys in the box. They'll do whatever it takes to stop the run and force the Bills to throw the football. And when that happens, they're in trouble. And I think that's going to continue. Like, I don't care who they're playing, whether it's Cincinnati next week, hell, it could be in Cleveland. It doesn't matter. New England, if the Bills get down and they become one-dimensional and they got to throw the football, that's not a good recipe for success on this team. It used to be, but it's not anymore. Because I don't buy a single pass catcher on this football team being dangerous whatsoever, other than Dalton Kincaid, whose availability is becoming a big problem, obviously, for this team. But he could do some damage, working the seams, the slots, the flats, getting down the field some. He could work the levels of the football field. He's going to win some matchups. He's the closest thing they had to dangerous. To a lesser extent, Khalil Shakir. Although, I mean, minus a couple big plays against Houston, these just bubble screens, they're using him as a safety valve. It's really, really annoying. But anyway, to a lesser extent, he can hurt you some. Josh Palmer's just wishy-washy, and he doesn't stay healthy. Keon Coleman, I have no fear of. I'm sorry, I just don't. Tyrell Shavers had a career game a few weeks ago, but he's not a consistent passing threat in the game. And Brandon Cooks, I'm not relying on him any more than I would have Elijah Moore or Curtis Samuel. Gabe Davis is good for a play or two most weeks. So the passing game is still very concerning right now. And maybe we'll start to get an answer on what it can be this week against Cincy, because, man, that's a shitty defense. But again, they're probably going to have the mindset of, hey, I am not going to let James Cook and the Bills run for 220 to 240 yards on us. We're going to make Keon Coleman and Brandon Cooks and Joshua Palmer beat us in the passing game. That's what's going to happen. So we'll see how that plays out. I'm not confident at all in this pass catchers. They need Dalton Kincaid back. I'm also so not convinced, big picture-wise, this is a football team that can win multiple games on the road in January. The 3 road losses they've had already this year, they were favored in all of them, and they had 8 turnovers in those games. Had they have lost this game, they had 2 in the first half. So you would have been talking 4 road losses, 10 turnovers. That's become a big problem for the Buffalo Bills this season, which it wasn't last year. And I don't want to steal any shine from the Bills because it's hard to win in the NFL, and it's especially hard to go on the road and win. I know, I understand that. But let's also be honest here. Their road wins this season were against a terrible Justin Fields quarterback New York Jets team. Justin Fields is terrible. The Jets are terrible, even though they're playing with some more heart right now. But they're not good. Carolina's been impressive. They beat Green Bay. They just beat the Rams. So it's like, I don't want to shit on Carolina, but they didn't beat Bryce Young. They beat Andy Dalton. The Bills are coming off their bye. I still laugh at that. So many Carolina fans at the time were saying, I think we're better off with Andy Dalton and Bryce Young. No, you ain't. No, you're not. And we see why. But anyway, they beat Andy Dalton's Carolina Panthers, and then a physically broken and shithead of a person quarterback in Pittsburgh with Aaron Rodgers and a coach who played like a coward. So I'm sorry, but I'm just not ready to put a lot of stock in the road wins. And I know you can only play who's on the schedule. Bottom line is this. They're at their best, and especially if they're going to go on the road and win, they need that chip on their shoulder, that edge. And then they look for it. And it happened in Sunday in Pittsburgh. We didn't talk about it on the show. But it kind of feels like the energy really changed when Josh Allen took that cheap shot from Patrick Queen. Like the energy really changed, fired up the Bills in that moment. But it's what they need. Fire in their belly, that chip. They play better when they're like that. They're not good enough to be overconfident, and you can deny it if you want, but the Bills look like a team who comes in some weeks, like Houston, like Miami, like they could just get off the bus and smack you. That's kind of what it feels like, and they don't. They don't. New England in 2 weeks potentially is a huge test if the Bills survive Cincinnati. And if they do, if the Bills win this Sunday, they'll feel like the AFC East is still gettable to them coming into that game. So I feel like if the AFC East is still in play, especially if it is still in play, like if the Bills beat Cincinnati, I think we'll get a true test for what the Bills really are as a road team, because they'll be playing a good New England team, a team that they may see again in January too, in Foxborough. So we'll see. Pass rush is going to be a concern. It's been a concern, but Joey Bosa hurt his calf in the fourth quarter of this game, or maybe it was the third quarter, I don't know, but it was the second half, and walked gingerly from all reports. Sean McDermott on Monday said they're still evaluating it. I think you can count on Joey Bosa being out for a while, almost certainly the Cincinnati game, maybe another game or two beyond that. And that's going to be a blow. Because, look, he's played really shitty in stretches. I thought for the last month or so he's been terrible until this Pittsburgh game. That big play was huge. Joey Bosa leads the NFL in forced fumbles with 5. So he's going to be out. What do they do? I would strongly suspect Morgan Fox is going to come up from the practice squad. They might even bring up Shaq Lawson as well. I'm not really sure. I think Fox hasn't been called up yet. It's not because they don't think he's ready. It's because of circumstance. Meaning they've needed those elevation spots for Gabe Davis a couple weeks, for linebacker, because Bernard or Shaq Thompson's been out, so they needed that extra linebacker up, or especially Dalton Kincaid. Latu has been an elevation because the Bills are going to use 3 tight ends, and Kincaid's missed 3 games. So Latu's been up the last 3 weeks. So I think you're going to see Fox this week for sure. End of the day, maybe I'll talk about this a little more with Matt tomorrow. It's weird. Like, I truly, truly in my heart, not as a fan, being objective, I think the Bills can get to the Super Bowl. I really do. But it's also ditto for at least 5 other teams in the AFC as well. There's not a team that's even close to being unstoppable or an overwhelming favorite in this conference. Like, the Patriots are very talented, but they got a young quarterback who's never done anything in January. They're just not battle-tested. Denver's defense is great. That's a championship caliber defense. And they're going to be a tough out. I just don't think I trust Bo Nix enough. I don't love their running backs either in a tough playoff game. Indy could be the 1 or 2 seed, Or they could just as easily miss the playoffs entirely. And I'm telling you, that's on the table, too, when you look at their schedule. And are you going to trust Daniel Jones in a big January postseason game? I don't know that I am. I don't believe in the Jags at all. Maybe I should, but I don't. The Chargers, key injuries. The Steelers, early season dynamo with their record, but they're being exposed. They're frauds. Baltimore may miss the playoffs entirely. And that roster has looked pretty severely flawed this season. And that includes now Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson's having a pretty shitty season. It's remarkable, actually. Kansas City may legit miss the playoffs. And they're way overdue to have something like that happen anyway. Houston and Cincinnati are very scary, but they're not likely to make the playoffs, especially Cincinnati. So why not Buffalo? You got an elite quarterback. You got an elite running back. Elite rushing attack. You got a defense that can at least make a few plays. And they're playoff tested. This is a battle-tested veteran football team. And if you go by the second half of the Pittsburgh game, taking the ball away is something the Bills were excellent at last year. They haven't done enough of that this year, especially on the road. Pittsburgh, second half, 2 takeaways, 14 points. Bam. So why not Buffalo? But conversely, you're asking them to win 2-3 road games in January based on what we've seen this year, how they've looked on the road. It's a really big ask. It really is. All right. Anyway, that's going to do it for this show. Like I said, Matt Warren from SB Nation is going to join me tomorrow. We'll go through our weekly positional analysis. Matt has report card grades for each position as it pertains to the Pittsburgh game. And we will start to dig into what's going to be a juicy Bills-Bengals game, Orchard Park, 1 p.m. on Sunday. Plenty to talk about throughout the week, the rest of this week, when it comes to that. Thank you so much for watching, for listening. Have a good one. Talk to you guys tomorrow.